when you grow and you're having to constantly grow, that requires more people, and that is a difficult task.
And sometimes as you continue to grow and develop and get better, you got to have different players in order to play at the highest levels.
We're ensuring what people work really hard for, whether it's their business or their personal lines. And so just got to remember there's a person on the other end of the phone, not a policy. All right, everybody. I am so happy to be joined here with we have our online agency school client of the quarter. You may know this person who I'm going to introduce. I'm going to see if maybe our listeners can potentially guess who it is just by the voice. We have the wonderful, amazing Christopher. So Christopher, introduce yourself, and then we'll do the full introduction to see people who can guess who you are.
Full introduction, the whole history and everything?
The whole history.
All right.
How insurance picked you.
Yeah, all that stuff, right? So hi Kelly, thank you for having our team on. We founded the agency back in 2004. I am somewhat of an insurance brat. My mom was a career life insurance agent, got me into the life insurance business at around 24 years old. Really enjoyed that, did really well in the life insurance space, but pretty quickly realized that PNC was probably a better spot for me in life. Told my wife, Amanda, hey, we're going to open an insurance agency. And she said, okay, I trust you. We worked for about a year meeting folks in the industry, captive agents, independent agents, adjusters, all sorts of people. We met 100 folks, met with 100 folks before we opened the agency to try to make sure we didn't commit the same mistakes that they had committed along the way and take their advice. And as you know, this industry is amazing. There was a lot of people willing to give advice and so on and so forth. So we've grown the agency from what I would call a little bit of a bucket shop or a non-standard agency that just wrote auto insurance to an agency that we're all really proud of, that helps over 10,000 folks in our communities and really works hard to help young folks grow in the industry.
I love that. I love that. So for those of you who have not yet guessed, Christopher Cook from Alliance Insurance Services is our guest today with his team. So I wanted to see how many people were on the edge of their seat there, Christopher.
Probably not many, Kelly, but I appreciate the game at least.
But you got to keep insurance a little fun, right?
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to turn it over to the group in the conference room now? Maybe Laura, you start. We'll go around the table.
Sure. My name is Laura Seguiri. Been in insurance. It'll be 20 years in April. So I'm really excited. I started when I was born. It's been a great 20 years. I started in insurance while I was in my 20s, just looking for a career path. Somebody recommended it. Joined a local agency in Greensboro, and then here I am 20 years later. I don't see me doing anything different. Been with the amazing Alliance crew here for 12 years now, and going strong.
I love that. So let's just see here. So you were born into insurance. You've been doing it for 20 years. So you can't even drink.
Right.
Which is kind of a bummer being in the insurance space, because I feel like in this market, we all need a stiff drink every now and again.
I think those are the older crowd, us younger ones, we're okay still. We're still fresh and we're happy.
She just gets us old people to buy it for her. That's all.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I also kept thinking like you were born into insurance, like your mom was reading you policies like as you were going to bed at night.
That'll definitely put you to sleep.
Yeah.
Children.
Ryan, would you like to take the next one?
Yeah. So Ryan Leftwich, I joined the Alliance team in 2006. So I'm old 17 plus years at this point. I, like most people, sort of fell into it. Christopher and I are from the same area of North Carolina. We just, I like to remind people he's 2 years older than me. So we didn't actually do a whole lot of communicating when we were in high school. And what I think now is, fortunately for me, I was on a 9-year college plan. Went through multiple arenas, so to speak, and had enough college credits to graduate with 3 degrees. I just ultimately landed on political science. And then Christopher and I met sort of in my last year of that 9-year plan. We hit it off he offered me a job, and I was like, sure, it's 2007, and I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. So sure, I'll try that out. And, here we are 17 years later. So I certainly wasn't born into it. We always make a joke when I first joined it. I think the first day I was here, Christopher was telling me about an endorsement a customer wanted to make. And to me, endorsements were Nike with Michael Jordan. Well, I had no idea what the hell it's talking about. Like, what is it? So I knew next literally nothing about insurance when I joined. That here we are 17 years later.
You have learned since then, though, right? You do know a thing or two now, or
Yeah, just a thing or two.
just enough to get by.
We call him the smartest guy in the room.
I love it. I love it. I also like the 9-year college plan. That seems like a lot better. It seems like a lot more fun.
I did have a lot of fun, I will say that.
Well, and that leads us to the one and only Cecilia.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Cruz. I fell into insurance as well right out of high school, so this is all I've known. This year will be my 20th year in insurance as well. So,
Oh, big anniversaries we got coming up here.
yeah, a short story or section of my story is I worked for Nationwide for 1 year. Best decision for them to let me go because I landed and met Christopher like weeks later, not even a month later, I think. And since then, I've been here since 05, August of 05. Yeah.
So you've seen the agency really like explode and grow then.
It's been a roller coaster. Like, I think I don't remember much, but I know it's been like
You blacked it all out, all the ups and downs and highs and lows. So tell us a little bit, like you started in 2005. What was the agency like back then? Like how many people, locations? What was 2005 like?
It was just one location. It was Christopher and his previous partner, Adam Pardue. So shout out to him if he's listening. It was just the three of us in this big box that we're sitting in now. There was a round table in the middle of the room, and we would sit there and have some meetings. I remember, I think, very short meetings, and when we did have meetings back then,
Because the phone was ringing. Somebody was walking in.
Yeah. I mean, Christopher was out, shaking trees is what he likes to say. And then I was here most of the time early in the mornings, and then Adam would come in. So, yeah, it's grown.
The goal was to write 3 policies in a day and hope that equaled 10 policies in a week. That's how it all started.
Awesome. So Christopher, if you can share, like to go from 2005, so 20 years, and now just give us the update, like how many people are right now, how many locations? So we go from behind the scenes to where we are now. What does that growth look like? You said you got about 10,000 customers.
Yeah, sure. So Brian and Cecilia, by the way, were employee number 1 and employee number 2. And I'm just always amazed that we've been able to stay together. Laura wasn't very far behind them. She actually started on the same day as one of our top producers, Chase Smith. So, a lot of team members have been on the team for quite some time. That progression today, we're almost 40 team members, 5 locations. Winston-Salem, North Carolina is the home base, if you will. About 250,000 people in Winston-Salem. And then our other 4 locations, we actually expanded to Statesville, North Carolina first. And Brian, we trained him very quickly, really not at all. And he ran the Statesville location before we made a pivot there. But in 2011, we expanded to a rural neighboring community in Walnut Cove. We did that so that we could have an auto owner's contract. In 2016, we opened a scratch agency in the town of Mount Airy, North Carolina, where Brian is from. Some folks may know that as Mayberry, which is the town that Andy Griffith is from and happens to be what that show is sort of based on. In 2021, we expanded to my hometown of Pilot Mountain via an acquisition. And then last year we went to Clemens, North Carolina, which is a little more affluent part of Forsyth County where we're in. That was the largest acquisition we had ever done. We purchased the Fortress Group in Clemens and brought on that team. It's been a good acquisition for not only our clients, but our carriers and certainly for our team members. So today that's where we are. What's next will probably be most likely more expansion, certainly more team members, because we've all got a growth mindset and we've got some growth goals that we're determined to achieve.
So can we talk about this for a second? Because sometimes we go to agencies and like growth is scary for them, like because it's change and it's people and it's hard and there's technology and there's scale and all these other things. But it seems like for you guys, it's like it would feel really uncomfortable to not grow. Like
Yeah,
the reverse. So how do you get that mindset, Christopher? Like what in you kind of born was like, we're just going to go blow this thing up over 20 years.
yeah, I'll have to brag on a few people here, and these guys I hope will interject where they see fit. But someone nominated us as a best practices agency back in 2011, and the Reagan best practices folks thought that, yeah, we agree, this is a best practices agency, and at that time we were in their smallest revenue category. So Brian and I went down to Orlando in 2012 to the best practices symposium, and we sat and we learned. And the last day, there was a conversation. I don't know if Bobby was holding it or who exactly was doing the talking, but there was a conversation about perpetuating agencies and those types of things, which Reagan normally has a part of that at the symposium. They talked about this whole generational deal, which, quite frankly, still exists. Dad didn't trust that son could run his nice, big, beautiful agency in Dallas, Texas. So Dad went and purchased an agency for the son in Denver. Well, 20 years later, the son had grown that agency by a multiple of 30 from when the dad kind of set him up. That same son who could have never effectively ran Dad's Dallas agency. So I got up out of my seat and walked out, and I may let Brian finish the story a little bit, but I got up and I left, and Brian was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And that day we decided that if that guy in Denver, who I never met and don't know and still don't know, could do that, then we could. And it's just kind of youthful hubris or huge ego either way. But we've been driving towards that goal since 2012. And we've really worked hard to know exactly what that takes. What is the measurement? What's the annual growth rate? What's the annual hire rate? What's your strategy around that? How much organic? How much acquisition? I wouldn't say we have it down to a science, but we've worked at it and we study it and we stay focused on reaching that final number.
That's amazing. So it just kind of became, and what's interesting to me, Christopher, is we have a lot of agencies that say, help us get ready to be best practices. So you were just kind of nominated and fell all together without a ton of just preparation for it.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, is that something you continue today, still applying for best practices, or was it like, hey, that was cool and keep moving on towards other things?
I'm in the process of filling out the paperwork right now. The submission process is going on here in February, and it's due at the end of April. And yeah, we're very, very proud that we've held that distinction for 13 years and hopefully going on 14.
Amazing. So I do have a question. Like that was the owner side, right? That's the Christopher side. And then we got to flip it onto the conference room team table side here, right? So I know what it's like to be in high growth agencies. I know what it's like to be in high growth companies. And I always say like the highs are highs and the lows are lows, right? It's like, and it's almost like addicting on the highs. Like, let's go chase the next one. In the lows, you're like, what are we doing? There has to be an easier way. And then you go and you meet other insurance agencies and they've been third generation and still 3 people. And I'm almost like, what happened? like what goes on? So for our team around the conference room table, tell me a little bit about how you keep people and, really get them pumped about growth, because I think some agencies do really great at this. And you can walk in, you can feel it. Like when I walked in the room in that December day, like you could feel people were pumped about growth. And then you walk into some agencies and like they answer the phone, insurance, how can I help you? And you want to be like, do you fog a mirror? Like, are you alive? What are you doing? So, and motivation is a challenge, right? Let's say it's like taking a shower. You got to keep doing it and doing it, doing it. So how do you keep the team pumped?
Well, I think initially in the beginning, there were so few of us and we all just sort of had this belief in Christopher from what we knew from him and our relationship with him that he's going to take us to the promised land, right? And one of the first things he ever told me, and this was, 7 years into my 9-year plan, was don't ever buy anything that won't make you money in return, right?
Okay.
So that resonated with me. And so I've learned a lot through the years. So I just sort of trusted in that he'll get us where we need to go. So it was easy to buy in back then. As we've grown, I think one of the biggest challenges, specifically for me, and I think for the ladies here too, is people, right? I mean, when you grow and you're having to constantly grow, that requires more people, and that is a difficult task, right? To constantly motivate people, as you say. But a lot of it is just the culture that you lead, and and sort of the personality of the owner. If you just sort of take that on as an organization, this is what we want to do, right? Now, Christopher and I have had some knockdown dragouts about, dude, what the hell are you doing? There are much easier ways to get to 30x20y. Why are you doing it this way? And I have to remind myself, he's an athlete, right? He set a goal. He has in mind what he wants to do, and you either follow or you don't. But if you don't, you get off the ship, right? And so you just sort of fall in that line. And I think most people respect him enough and trust him enough to know that he's not going to let us fail. He may have a bad idea or two. We may have to scrap the damn thing and do something different, but he won't let us fail. So we know we're going to succeed. So if you want to be part of it, come on, let's go.
Well, I think for me too, they kind of grew up with Christopher, and that's all they know, Alliance. I actually, I worked at another agency that stopped growing, that started answering the phone, hello, Alliance Insurance. And I went through 2 buyouts. So something that really attracted me to work at Alliance was the fact that he had a growth mindset, because I knew I didn't want to go to another buyout. Yeah. And support clients. So for me, it was different. I learned to recognize. I remember joining the team and we would have our meetings, and Christopher would say, "You're awfully quiet." And I'm just waiting for the okay. And just right. So it's something I do appreciate his vision. When he came to us and said, "This is my vision," I said, "Okay, for 20 years, I don't have to worry about it." At least that's. And then I think the energy is really contagious here. We have the leader kind of believing it. We have our leaders believing it. And it's like, we just go with the flow, right? So that was a different kind of mindset to it. When the owner of the agency stops being creative, stops believing in us and that growth, I think for me, that's when I start to worry.
Sure.
For me, I think it's been up until this point having the right people with us. So I think, like you said, we've grown up with Christopher, right? And some of them don't know him back the way we do, but they know us.
Yes.
Like whoever we brought in, they know us, so they trust us, and that we trust him. So it just follows. Like
Snowball.
like a little snowball, it just follows. So I think it's the people that have joined the team that see that we believe in the leader, so they believe in us believing, and they just. I try to galvanize too. I don't know, that comes from a little training session we did, which means, I always like to look at things in a positive way. Everything that happens stays out there, and then here is work.
Yeah.
Make it work for everybody, right? Like, I don't want you to come to work and have a bad day. Like, I'm trying to make it as lively as possible for people.
She has give out a hug Friday, for God's sake. So,
Even for the anti-huggers, like you just maul them in the hallway, like, come on.
nobody is safe from that. Everybody's getting a hug, whether they want one or not.
During COVID, did you like elbow bump Friday?
We've done 2-minute plank Friday, so there's like
2-minute plank. Whoa.
yeah, it's been 2 minutes. We saw, but we need to bring that back.
We did.
Who holds it for 2 minutes? I just need to know this answer. That's a very long plank.
I'm not competitive, so I don't care how long it hurts. We're shaking, but we're holding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm in, man. Let me know when I'll plank with you. Wait, are you forearms or elbow? Like where are we going? Are you fully out or are you on the forearms? Well, all right, full out is a lot easier than the forearms.
But we'll let you do whatever as long as you participate.
Yeah. I'm in. I'll even put the timer up. I'll be in it. It won't even be AI. It'll really be me. So we got a good group. And I think for where you guys are heading, and I just want to echo this message, people make all the difference in the world. And you guys have heard me say this, like sometimes we pay terrorists to stay on our team. Like there are some times where you just don't make the right hire or people change, right? That can happen sometimes as well. And to me, every agency I go into, the people are one, the biggest investment an agency makes, but they also make all the difference in the world. And you guys don't know how many times I go into an agency and it's like, well, Sally won't do that. I'm like, well, Sally gets a paycheck, right? And they're like, yes,
Yeah.
you won't do that. I'm like,
Mhm.
does Sally run the agency? No, I do. Doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
As long as you guys can do it, I'm sure you've had some people that didn't work out over time, right? You know, what would your message
Yeah,
be
sure.
to people as far as if they don't have some of the right people? Like, how do you convert that?
I think Brian's probably done the best about that on our team. You know, we want you to be happy. If you want to be here, we want you here. And we've had great longevity amongst our team members. We've lost some people too, and we still consider those folks family. Even the folks that left or just didn't work out, they had an influence on our business. They had a positive influence, and so we still appreciate them and appreciate what they gave. Sometimes you do have to move on. There's a teammate of ours that helps me. Brian mentioned I'm an athlete, and he talks to me about, well, Christopher, do you want to be a 1A high school team, a 2A high school team, a small college team? Are you a professional team? And sometimes as you continue to grow and develop and get better, you know, you got to have different players in order to play at the highest levels. And so unfortunately, sometimes people have to leave or they choose off the boat or whatever it is. But most of the time we hire for great people, and those great people, we find a place for them and make them or give them the opportunity really to choose the seat that's best for them.
So are you saying you can train people insurance?
I can teach people insurance. All Cecilia does is teach people insurance. You know, we hadn't talked about that, but Cecilia's our director of training. This is our leadership team. We made a commitment to train people better about 3 years ago, and we knew that meant having a full-time trainer, and it took us a little while to ask Cecilia to take that seat and drive it. We had to have some things happen. Just, you know, God works in really, really, really mysterious ways. There's awful things that happen. There's great things that happen. But right now we've got a full-time trainer and a great team member that's super talented and cares about people. And yes, she can train people insurance. She teaches them people insurance every day.
Did you know?
Well, the reason I'm laughing is because I think when we talk to agencies, you know, the common theme is always, we can't find anybody, we can't find anybody. And then I'm like, well, what are you looking for? Well, they need to know our management system, these carriers, they have to live within 3 miles of the office. I'm like, you're like,
looking for unicorns.
yeah. I was like, it's easier to date a Kardashian than it is for you to find what you're looking for. So I don't understand your recruiting model. And then you ask them like, well, where are you looking for these people? Oh, they're just too hard to find, so we don't look. I'm like, so you're not actually trying to find people. And I advocate for what these guys are saying, because I've said for a long time, I'd rather train someone new that's teachable and has a good attitude than to take someone else's baggage.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'd rather, with my new role, focus on the person that knows nothing about insurance, so we could train them the Alliance way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a great fit.
110%. And like, I think what Christopher said is important though. Like that role just doesn't happen overnight sometimes, because you have to get to a certain size and scale and get there and get through it. You know, so as far as training goes, you know, what are some of the things that you guys like to train the team on? Because I think you're a little unconventional. I think everybody starts with like, let's go through how to make a payment and let's go through all of our carrier websites and let's do all the things that are necessary. But I also think you guys do a great job on a lot of the soft skills, mental toughness, your attitude. Like when I think of you guys, I don't just think of like, well, we train them the insurance transactions. I feel like you guys have a wide open room of things that you train on.
We do. We have a course that we have taken, all of us have taken quite a few times in the past, 3 years maybe? It's called Focus 3. It is.
Shout out to Tim and Brian Kite.
Yes. Gone through that, and new team members go through that as well. They go through a lot of your program. They go through Total CSR. They go through programs that the IINC has. So there's a variety of programs, and then we do one-on-ones and, you know, shadows, and it's just a whole mix of things that we do to help them gain the knowledge that we have and make them understand that what we know didn't happen 6 months ago. It's been like 20 years of insurance knowledge. So we try to make sure they understand that from the very beginning. Listen, just because I showed you once or I am training you one time, I don't expect you to know it tomorrow. Like, this is an ongoing thing.
Well, Kelly, to some of that point, or go ahead, Bruno.
Well, just a lot of the things you mentioned, Kelly, are people skills, right?
Yeah.
And what we always live by, the guy that Christopher talked to when we first started said that insurance is a relationship business. It has been, always will be. That will never change. So while you can hire people to do back end work when they're not communicating with people, if anybody's going to deal with people, they need to have people skills, right? And truthfully, that's becoming a lost art in this age of technology, right? People don't know how to talk to each other. So it's extremely important and certainly critical to your business that people know how to talk to people, right? Because there's always going to be a Kelly out there that says, I'm not emailing these people. I need to pick up the phone and call them. And so somebody needs to know how to talk to them, because otherwise, you can do all the transactions in the world you want, but if you don't know how to talk to people, you won't have enough people to do transactions for.
Right. Well, and people come to an independent agent because they want a relationship. And when they don't get that and they get treated like a transaction, I was just sharing with these guys before this podcast, we shot Confessions of a Secret Shopper. We interviewed our secret shoppers. And they said that was the number one reason why they'd fail people is it was just a transaction. Like, no warm, no fuzzy, no bonding, just, okay, you want to quote on your auto? What's your VIN number? And we're in a people game, like we're ensuring what people work really hard for, whether it's their business or their personal lines. And so just got to remember there's a person on the other end of the phone, not a policy, because nobody wants to buy insurance, right? Like, I'm not excited to buy my insurance this year. I'll be honest. I know that sounds crazy. I'm happy to do it because I understand, but at the same token, like, I want to make sure when I do call in, I don't get treated like a number. Or one of our secret shoppers shared that she was put on hold for 10 minutes after the receptionist greeted her to find someone to quote her insurance. If you've ever spent 10 minutes on hold, it's painful. And by the way, sometimes it's just a process. Sometimes it's just a breakdown, right, of what goes on. So I want to kind of ask you, so what's next at Alliance, right? Like, we're rocking and rolling. We're killing it in North Carolina. We got 10,000 customers. We got a lot of humans. We got some locations. And I do have a question for you too, Christopher, before we dive into this next question. I know you said you're an athlete. So what's your sport?
Yeah, I played a little bit of football in college. I was a state champion wrestler. Currently, my sport is coaching ball, I guess. I've ran a few triathlons, but right now I'm coaching.
Now, do you like coaching better than playing?
It's just different seasons in life. I tell kids that I coach in football, play this game as long as God will let you, or as long as the game will let you. The game of football specifically leaves you. You can't play it forever. One, you can't find 21 of your buddies to go play a football game with. More importantly, your body just won't do it, but for so long. You always tap out at that. Whether it's at 21 or 30 or 40 like Tom Brady, at some point in time, you're going to tap out. So It's just a different season in life. I really like coaching. I really, really enjoy playing too.
And then also too, if somebody, doesn't do the right thing, you can wrestle them to the ground.
Yeah, Brian and I have seen a few of those situations together.
Like, he's in love, Kelly. He's in love. Okay.
I love it. I love it. So what's next for Alliance? Where do you guys see the future going of insurance? This is always that big question. I talked to a producer at length last week who thought we're all going to be taken over by AI robots. So he didn't really see a future in insurance. His sales numbers were also so I kind of pinpointed back that it was his sales numbers, not the whole industry.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a doomsday guy. I think we've got a bright future. At Alliance, we've got probably 12 employees who are under 30 years old. So, we've got a lot of bright stars and a lot of growing stars. So as far as for our agency goes, the reason we grow is to give those people opportunities, and they've got a lot of skill and a lot of ability. So if we can continue to grow, they can continue to have opportunities and backfill against us. When Laura's 40, she wants to retire. So as we keep growing, we'll allow that to happen. We've got numerical growth or goals this year. We want to sell a new business revenue figure of $1 million of new business revenue created. We really have some things we've got to do to improve the agency from just an operation standpoint. We need to get to 2 policies per customer. We're not quite there, and we need to get to 92% retention. We're not quite there. We're getting better every day. We'll get there. Those are goals for the year. For me personally, I need to be a better leader. I need to continue to drive our culture and make sure folks understand why we're here and what we're trying to do. And it's not all about the numbers. It is a lot about it for me, but more importantly, for me personally, I want to drive culture this year, and we'll continue growing. At some point in time, we'll be a $20 million shop and 100 team members ish. And that's the future.
Very smart. I love that.
I mean, the goal line just keeps moving.
What do you think your last at? Was it 80 million? Now it's 100 million?
No. It's been 21 million in 2032 for 12 years. That's not moving. It's just what will we do when we wake up?
Once we hit that, it'll move.
I just love seeing a visionary and then the integrator or implementer like come out. Like Christopher's a visionary, right? And all the guys in the room are like, okay, let's do the math. Divide by 10. We need to hire X.
Very happy to. And we're just like, okay, we'll get it done for you.
Well, and I always tell people it's fun to work for a growing agency. It's not fun to work for a shrinking agency. There's a lot of fictitious growth right now with the hard market. So I'm really interested to see what happens when the bottom drops out on this whole thing. And, for me, challenge is opportunity, right? So COVID was an opportunity. The market's an opportunity. And there's a lot of people that are just not playing that as an opportunity. They're just surviving. And I think my prediction is that when the market changes, I'm going to have to eat a lot of crow because I'm an anti-remarketer, but I think I'm going to have to say, like, we are going to have to shop for our clients because they had no options for 3, 4, 5 years. And when that market opens, there's only so much people can take of rate increase without a win.
Yeah.
And so you will watch me at one point in time, somebody will pull up old YouTube videos and just nail me to the cross for my regurgitation or my rebuttal of my statements. But we saw it in Canada, and Canada is about 2 years ahead of us on the hard market. So they went through their hard market in COVID. So we have a working game plan from our friends up north. So I think that those goals sound amazing. You guys are such an awesome team. I do have one more question before we let you guys go, because I don't want to keep you past the end, but I know you all have taken our online training. So I'd love to hear everybody's favorite lesson or what's their biggest takeaway from the training that they kind of use day in and day out. Because I know we've talked about a few of these, and I did hear that some frogs made their way down to your office.
Where I was going.
We have an office.
Frog already.
We have an office full of frogs. We had a new hire here a couple of weeks ago, and she had a little blank whiteboard and a frog, and she just looked at us like, what is happening? What did I just join? And I said, you'll get it. Just hang on to it. You'll need it.
Did she walk in with her notepad and you're like, oh, you're not going to need that.
Okay. Here's your whiteboard. She's just looking at us. Thankfully for us, she doesn't know anything about insurance yet. So it wasn't a big, shock there for her coming from an experience there. I would say, since I'm talking now, my favorite was the time management training that we did. I personally was able to take a couple or 3, 4 things from there, and it really did help me a lot. So that was my favorite one.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've taken time management, I think, 2 or 3 times. Yeah. So eating the frog for sure. And, we keep reminding people that you have to keep doing it to get comfortable with it and outlast the stuff. So those are the couple of things that we keep reminding people. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it.
And I think next you'll love the renewal call training in there.
Well, we've actually, Cecilia and I kind of tag team that with the group with the renewal calls, and so we've at least watched it 3 times already as we go through it, and I'm sure there'll be a 4th and a 5th. I think it all kind of ties in together eventually with the time management. So
What's the statistic? Average person needs to hear something 21 times before it sticks.
Oh, it's like 22, but I think a lot of people fight that teenagers need to double that. I don't have any experience with teenagers, but I could see that being true.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Yeah, you know, or I like to say it works so well that we stop doing it, right? Like you get on a roll with time management, then you stop.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You go back. I think it's key. It's always, because it has to become muscle memory. So you do it. We're all excited about it. So there's three we talked about. We've done that 3 or 4 live sessions, and everybody's just really bought in for a couple of weeks. And then ultimately, like Focus 3 teaches you, you go back to default. And so it has to be a constant sort of reminder.
Sure. Christopher, any words to sign us off here?
Well, for me, just to acknowledge the great folks you've worked with throughout this whole industry. Chris Paradiso and Ryan Pessel are, part of the folks that introduced us to you. And Paradiso's statement to me, you got to be making proactive renewal calls. And that was like a punch in the mouth at first, but I totally bought in, and we've totally bought into you and the things your team teaches. And we're working with some EORs occasionally who don't really want to make those renewal calls every day, or they need to really understand why we're doing it. But you've been super impactful in our decision to be proactive with our clients. There's lots of things you've taught us, but that has certainly changed our operation as much, if not more than anything we've done. Kelly, I would encourage folks to invest in their team, whether that's with you or another way, but no matter what, you got to invest in your team if you want to grow your business, if you want to grow them, if you want to continue this industry being an amazing industry, we got to teach young people how to do it. So I would ask owners and leaders in the business, invest in your team, constantly invest in your team.
I love that. And I want to just say one more thing to what Christopher said. A lot of pushback is, oh, nobody has any time. Nobody has any time. Right. And I always say, well, then what are they doing? And if you really look at what people are doing, they're wasting a lot of time, right? So the time is sort of like this innocuous thing of I can have as little or as much time as I need to today, depending on what my priorities are. And you'll find that they're spending like 8 hours remarketing a log home with a pit bull and a trampoline that has no shot of ever finding a market, but they feel that. Right. And then nobody's got any time. So I just think that, what do they say? It's like, the scariest thing is an untrained team. So, in this market, you got to keep investing in your people. And by the way, to me, everything that you guys said today is that the right people want training, right? Like they want to learn, they want to get better. So when I hear people that don't want to be on training, I'm like, are they the right humans? Or do they want to just stay in their little box, not do anything different, right? So
that's a great point.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for joining today. I truly appreciate it. You all are awesome. I can't wait to, so Christopher, when we hit 100 million, what's the party look like?
Today I planned the 20th anniversary party, and it's going to be a pretty good party. So let me see if I can get through this 20th anniversary party with no fights, pregnancies, or terminations. And if I can, we'll plan the $100 million party.
What kind of party is it without a fight, a pregnancy, or a termination?
We wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I don't know what kind of party you're throwing, but
we like to party.
Well, I wish you guys the best. Thank you all so very much for your time. Appreciate you all.